Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are looking at something completely transformative for technical and vocational education, specifically how TVET principles can drive true financial sustainability through visionary leadership. Look, if you're deeply invested in the TVET sector, you already know that the pressure to generate independent institutional funding is literally higher than ever before. But how do you actually lead that kind of change without just getting completely bogged down in daily firefighting? Well, today, we are unpacking a powerful methodology. We're going to blend Stephen Covey's timeless 7 Habits of Highly Effective People with the super practical, modern toolkit of human-centered design to help you build reliable, income-generating activities.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to cover 4 structured steps today. First, the need for a compass. Second, begin with the end. Third, visions from peer TVETs. And finally, a guided vision statement builder.
Section 1. The need for a compass.
So we have to start by acknowledging the reality on the ground, right? TVET institutions face incredibly heavy financial strain, and the old way of just sort of administering a set budget, well, it's just no longer enough. So as a capable leader, I really want you to ask yourself this. Are you managing your institution with a map or leading it with a compass? I know, it sounds like a bit of a philosophical riddle, but it actually challenges the whole standard approach of how we run our schools. For decades, standard management has relied on rigid, reactive roadmaps. You know the drill, following predefined rules and waiting for instructions or budgets to be handed down from above. But what happens when the road suddenly disappears?
Stephen R. Covey really hit the nail on the head here when he said, "We are more in need of a vision or designation and a compass, and less in need of a roadmap." Covey's insight is absolutely crucial here. Think about it. When the terrain ahead is totally unknown, maybe it's shifting national funding models or rapidly changing local economies, a detailed roadmap from 5 years ago is essentially useless. But an inner compass, a core set of principles and a crystal clear vision, that will always point you in the right direction, allowing you to navigate absolutely any terrain.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core difference between mere administration and true leadership. On one side, you've got reactive management. This is essentially waiting for circumstances to dictate your actions. It's sitting in what Covey calls the circle of concern, just worrying about budget cuts and things you totally cannot control. On the other side is proactive leadership. This is about consciously creating perspective and acting on it. Proactive leaders, they don't wait for a financial setback to force their hand. They operate squarely in their circle of influence. They look at their current assets, their staff, their workshops, and they take total ownership of the sustainability agenda.
Let's see how this builds as we move to Section 2, begin with the end. So knowing you need a compass is one thing, right? But how do leaders practically activate it to create a brand new financial reality? Well, this brings us to Covey's habit 2, begin with the end in mind. Formally, this is defined as creating a clear mental vision of your desired destination before acting physically. The underlying principle here is that all things are created twice. There's a first, mental creation, and then a second, physical creation. I mean, think about it. You wouldn't just start building a new workshop without drawing up the blueprints first, would you? Of course not. The exact same logic applies to your institution's financial future. You simply cannot build a sustainable, income-generating TVET institution if you haven't clearly visualized what that success looks like in your mind first. So, I want you to just pause for a moment. Take a breath. Imagine your institution exactly 3 years from today. I want you to tap into that creative, right-brain capacity that we so often ignore when we're buried under a mountain of daily paperwork. Picture your institution's successful future in rich, vivid detail. What do the workshops actually sound like after hours? What specific services are your students proudly delivering to the local community? How does it feel to finally have a diversified, stable income stream? This kind of visualization isn't a distraction from your work. It literally is the blueprint for your work.
All right, let's snap back into gear. Section 3, Visions from Peer TVETs.
Now it's time to shift from personal philosophy to real-world application. Let's look at how principles in a Kenyan TVET blended learning program have actually bridged this theory and practice. Now, what's really interesting about these specific examples is how grounded they are. Take the typical TVET asset on the left, a welding workshop. Instead of a vague, fuzzy goal like make more money, their 3-year sustainability vision is incredibly precise. It's an after-hours repair service for local industry. Or look at the agricultural unit. Their vision is a win-win community farming consultancy. These leaders looked at the assets they already had, applied Habit 2, and envisioned a tangible income-generating reality. This proves for sure that this framework is a highly practical tool. It's not just corporate jargon. So what exactly makes these peer examples so incredibly effective? Well, successful visions share a few very specific traits. First off, they are deeply rooted in habit 2. They establish a very clear end goal. Second, they are designed for win-win mutual benefits, which, by the way, is Covey's habit 4. They don't just try to extract money from the community by overpricing things. Instead, they solve a genuine problem for local industry while simultaneously generating revenue for the school. Third, they're clear and concise. And finally, they are tied to concrete institutional assets. They literally turn stakeholder input into mutually beneficial income-generating activities.
Which brings us to the climax of our explainer. Section 4, Guided Vision Statement Builder.
Okay, this is where we get highly tactical. We're going to walk through an interactive framework right now that empowers you to draft your own institutional vision. To do this, we borrowed directly from the human-centered design process. We want to make sure you aren't overwhelmed by the theory, so we break the whole shebang down into 3 simple steps. Step 1. Identify your core asset. What is the strongest, most underutilized resource you have? Is it a kitchen, a tech lab, your skilled instructors? Step 2. Define value to the community. Based on what you know about your local employers and citizens, what do they desperately need? And step 3. Set your sustainability goal. What is the specific financial or institutional outcome you actually need to achieve? To bring those 3 steps together, we use this highly effective fill-in-the-blank template. It goes like this. In 3 years, our institution/asset will sustainably provide value/service to community/stakeholder to achieve goal. It's wonderfully simple, kind of like playing Mad Libs, but do not underestimate its power. This simple structure bridges the gap. It connects Covey's abstract principles of visionary leadership with the concrete, rigorous demands of a modern TVET strategy. By just filling in these brackets, you're effectively creating the very first blueprint of your institution's sustainable future. So that brings us to the end of our explainer and to a final, absolutely vital question for you. What will your 3-year vision be? I'm challenging you today, as a proactive leader operating fully in your circle of influence, to just take 5 minutes before you move on to the next phase of your day. Grab a pen, use that template we just discussed, and write down your statement. Be the architect of your institution's future. Thanks so much for exploring this topic with me, and I hope this empowers you to lead with a true compass.